Well, good morning. Welcome to our 5th Lenten Poetry and Music series. We are walking our journey towards the cross. We're getting closer there. A few things I'd like to remind you. We have a wonderful Holy Week of worship here. Out next to the offering plate are some flyers for our Good Friday concert of remembrance. And on the back of that is all the things that community church, your community church, offers during Holy Week. For all ages, from a very reflective Tenebrae service of the Lord's Supper, to a concert of remembrance with orchestra and choir, to children's fun festivities on Saturday before Easter, and then Easter services here, 3 services, one starting at 9 o'clock in this space, 10:30 across the courtyard in our C2 facility area, and then back in here for 11 o'clock. It is my pleasure today to welcome 2 extreme talented artists, one in music and one in poetry. Sean Sexton will come shortly to introduce our poet, so I will take my time to introduce the musician. My colleague, Dr. Sue Lee. Sue comes originally from South Korea. She holds a bachelor's in music and piano, a master's in composition from Germany, and then came to the United States to get her PhD in composition from the University of Buffalo, where she also decided that wasn't enough to do. She'll get a master's in organ as well. Sue comes with a fresh, more contemporary approach to the organ. She likes to have experimental ideas, which you'll get to witness. I guarantee you, unless you were here in church a few Sundays ago, you're going to see something that you never have seen before at the organ. She likes to extend her techniques, and she does a lot of cultural and social justice topics in her compositions. You can Google her on YouTube and you can find some of her compositions, and I encourage you to do that. So, would you welcome Sue Lee to the organ? Sean?
I'm so grateful for those railings now, I'll tell you. It's one of the best things that ever happened to me. Since I decided to stay at this church, my whole life. But anyway, look at what a wonderful crowd we have. You should all just look at yourselves. You should stand up and you should see what I see, because it's very exciting. And it's exciting to have these brilliant people in our midst who have come to give you a program. And so you know about Sue Lee, and M.B. McClatchy is the author of 6 books, including the award-winning titles The Lame God from Utah State University Press, Smiling at the Executioner from Kelsey Books, and Beginner's Mind, Regal House. And she has some of them with her, so please come forth afterward. Her poetry's been published nationally and internationally. She's won several awards, including the American Poet Prize, recently serving 10 years as Volusia County Poet Laureate. And are you still, or is that, no, okay. 10 years, that's a long time. We have another poet laureate in our midst, Pat Draper, who was the poet laureate of our county. And we should... I was the inaugural, and she is now has followed up, and so and MB and I are both chancellors of the Florida State Poets Association, and that's how we met. And she's my good friend. I just want to tell you, I adore her, and you're going to see how brilliant she is. She's a member of SWIM, Supporting Women Writers in Miami, and earned her graduate degree in comparative literature at Harvard and teaches classical literature at Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University. That's near Patrick, correct? Patrick Air Force Base? Oh, okay. So please come, MB.
Wow. Thank you for that introduction. Good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me okay? Thanks so much for being here. I was thinking of your presence as something more than just your presence. The poet Shelley said that a poem has to be heard. It's not heard, then it's not a poem. So your presence is much more than just a presence to me, and I hope you'll come and say hello after this performance. I want to thank Sue Lee for being my companion here. I'm not sure who's accompanying who. I'm pretty sure I'm accompanying you. And I'm honored to have you here. Sue Lee put a lot of work into preparing this program, and I very much appreciate it. I also want to thank Sean, of course. Sean is a good friend of mine, but more than anything else, he is a gatherer of poets. Sean, the dedication you put into shining light on other people's work, I think is a beautiful thing, and I'm honored to be your friend and in fellowship with you as a fellow poet. So I appreciate that very, very much. So I thought I would start with a poem that is from one of my newest collections. It is in the Lenten season. A little background to this poem. It was inspired by my reading St. Augustine. I teach ancient Greek and Roman civilizations, so I spend a lot of time with the ancient Greeks and Romans. And in reading St. Augustine, I recommend this book. It's the first memoir in Western history. And it's all really about his confessions, but more about God's grace, how God is waiting for us. And so it's called The Confessions, and it's a beautiful testament to God's patience. I'm not sure if you know anything about St. Augustine, but he lived a very checkered life until his conversion to the Catholic faith at 33 years old. His daily prayer until that conversion was, "Save me, O Lord, just not today." When he did look toward his conversion and was baptized, he made a statement in his memoir. He said, "I see it now. God and his saints were with me all along, in the taverns, in the brothels, in the marketplace. I just had to recognize them." So this poem was inspired by St. Augustine, but also came to me in the checkout lane of Publix, the marketplace. It's called Unrecognizing Saints. Am I too close to the mic? Little? So back here is good? Okay. All right. Unrecognizing Saints. As if to find new icons for her life, or as if, piece by piece, to dismantle mine. She scans our purchases too consciously, flips through a magazine I'm embarrassed to be buying, studies its regimen because she's heard that drinking wine is good for nursing. The shift from idle chit-chat to appeal. Camille, her name tag says. Camille of olive skin and violet nails with long metallic tips, who flashes her lover's sucking marks like her stigmata. Camille, who isn't showing yet, but like Crivelli's virgin martyr Catherine, peers sidelong at me and leans decoratively against her studded wheel. So clearly, Catherine, that I want to look away or kneel. And yet, Crivelli would have framed her differently, a martyr tucked away with other martyrs in a predella of muted colors, quiet suffering. None of this heart-to-heart, this girlfriend talk that brings to mind a string of small petitions and makes me say my part. Probably the most impactful spiritual guide in my life was my Irish Catholic grandmother who lived with me when I was growing up, lived with us. She was my usual companion for Sunday Mass, And I'm fairly certain that her idea of being a servant to the Lord was chastising the priest as we exited the church every Sunday. She lectured him that there was too much talk about football from the pulpit and not enough about our fallen state. She was never so severe with me. She emphasized grace and forgiveness. Hers was a joyful faith with me. And that joyful faith is the inspiration for this poem. The history of the poem is that it came upon me at 5 p.m. in the evening that I had overlooked one of the most important days in the Christian calendar. This poem is called On Forgetting Ash Wednesday. Between the harvesting and sowing, the stubble burn, embers recycled from a dying fire, the promising scent of charred straw, cinders inextinguishable as newfound desire. The calendar plan that out of the slag a new upright row might spring, Lazarus flowers, roses of Jericho. All this to call me home, as if to dress me in a penitent's sackcloth, when for decades, even now, I would have come on my knees, a girl in love with high relief, stained glass mysteries, the lightness and the weight of your hanging figure, the promise of one love and end of days. Who else could have sown, then seeded this divide? Who else left this shadowy thumbprint between my eyes? I'm thinking of the Catholic monk, Thomas Merton. Each time I fall, I rise again with more love. During the pandemic, our family gathering for Easter happened on Zoom. And so there were cousins and in-laws, my grown sons, my husband, all in blurry boxes, half bodies. And time seemed to stop. In a sense, I enjoyed it. I was granted a chance to understand what Dante called the now eternal. This poem is called Afterlives. Only faces in little boxes now, blinking and peering into a starless space, not knowing what to do except perhaps wave. Our host asks each box, "What's new with you?" We talk in turns. We share the virtual part, meaning the essence. It's lovely how this how we conform source. Dante insists the now eternal, unselfconsciously. No, my sons I see, equable and clear. Images, expressions on TV, the seats, how alone he looks. No pilgrims, no Vatican with flowers to hold the barricades. Watched and listened to the litter that sag, unlapped, an insistence on right seasons a whistle too. Wordsworth tells us parenting. But first, just a few words about how these poems came. Fortune, really the blessing of working with some remarkable poets who emphasized it takes a good person to write a good poem. To know the craft. Seamus, as a Catholic in Northern Ireland, it was not for his speeches against the British in his award said, it was for exalting and celebrating the everyday life. Seamus warned against what he called his fear of that to write a poem, you had to look around under your own roof, listen to the sound in your own well. You can't write anyone else's poems, you can only write your own. Resistance to political speech wasn't just about poetry. And in his poetry, the tools would have been metaphor, not the megaphone. So in that light, I take his direction. It takes a good man to write a good poem. This poem is a meditation on my own impatience. As I put a resistant 4-year-old to bed. 4-year-olds don't want to go to sleep. It's called A Drink of Water. A tactic for staying awake. The still we would call, go to sleep. Joke that the well was dry. Right away. I sent his father pushing his whole self, sleepwalker, his father's father, laggard. From across the hall, we heard a small boy drink, as if he meant to teach us how it's done, exaggerated gulps. The sinking thrill of water filling his bony frame or drowning him. And then the playful gasp between each self-immersion, the antics of prayers, his sadness at the question, his sour objection. One prayer was this encounter of his thirst with ours. Do we have parents here, grandparents? So what that means is that at some point in your life, you raised a teenager. Heroic achievement, a tsunami of hormones, a still developing brain, and a headstrong resistance to guidance when guidance was never needed more. Mark Twain, 14, he couldn't believe how stupid his father was. He couldn't stand being in the same room as him. But at 21, he was amazed that in 7 years, this poem is a meditation on my teenage son while he reads Melville's Reader. With an ease that belies his theme, my boy slumps into a mold of his own small back. Chair or taffrail, the waves blend with his thoughts, and fire for a send-off, to follow a runaway's lead, his optimism, to see our a summer breeze. And now the pages turn themselves. He shifts and shifts. Perhaps the helmsman stares now at the flaming try-works, sees the shapes, harpoon that hissing mass, a reckoning so stark he slips into a soporific dream. But dead astern, his mind ignited, wondering how to save the ship from being brought to. I remember reading that scene until I could recite it. But now He lays the book like open wings across tasks in summer's breeze. I watch him like a swabber come to save a listing ship and keep a kind of vigil while he naps. Was God above young Ishmael as he packed his bag for Cape Horn, the Pacific, or in New Bedford when he read The Fate of Whaleman, an average, good-hearted dreamer at the masthead, watcher, not watching, chatting with Queequeg? O little dreamer, never in more danger than on your sunny perch, move your foot in your grip, and midday, in the fairest weather, with one half-throttled shriek, you drop through the transparent air into the summer sea. It's actually a nice introduction to where we're going. I'm going to talk about teaching. Do we want our students to love us, or I'm not sure what that dynamic. Any teachers here? Retired teachers? All right. I teach at Embry-Riddle, as I think Sean mentioned, and there's a requirement for Embry-Riddle students to take humanities courses. Most of my students are training to be pilots or engineers, work in the physical sciences, but we have this ideal that we hope we can sort of train the whole man, not just a specialist. So we lasso them and bring them into humanities courses, which I teach, and they learn about ancient Greek and Roman civilization. But after a while, they warm to it. I think they like the departure from the sciences, and they begin to sort of stretch as human beings. Not all of them. I've heard of it, called Rate My Professor. Have you heard of it? And it's a place where students go to rate. And every once in a while, I have the courage to look. I decided to extract wholesale from comments my students had made and just create this poem. So this is called Rate My Professor, a Rebuttal. The student, and then of course me, the teacher. Do not take her. She makes you talk. I greeted you at the door, another mother's child delivered. You looked away as if a lamb had been slain. Your early sounds parsed, seeds seeking ground, then whole thoughts crowned. Ridiculous grader. She instead of the deserved A. So hard to put a score on this wrestling with your age. Rubrics hold out such promise, then fold, fade. Instead of systems, transporting a golden bough was what we praised. I didn't come here to read ancient epics, poems, plays. Remind me again how this gets an engineer employed. Odysseus had one thing, Ithaca, in mind. The gods gave him their scales. You and die a king regaled. A cyclops, sirens, a bard spared among suitors to sing your tale. All set sail. Robert Frost, literature and poetry sometimes at Harvard. He was famous for posting an advisory at the top of his syllabus, and it said, "Most of this will tell." This poem is called Teaching the Tragedies. They see how lightly tragedies begin. Old friends approach, trade jokes, then ask the whereabouts of someone else. Inconsequential chit-chat. I know by training what to think. Invoking absent ones. That's nature, out of balance. But I stay quiet and watch my best take turns reading aloud. Premonitions, prayers, misgivings, all uttered, much as we ourselves utter such things, without implying real belief in astral influence or providence. In the mutilated versions that Restoration audiences knew, finding the art in grief was just the same, the principal requirement of loss. Then, all the afterthoughts of obvious but distant analogs. This morning's work is metrics, harmless stuff, except for one, a girl whose lovely throat warbles what ought to be our longest vowels, our sad approach. I make her rest herself. It's hard to speak. Sort of simpatico is going on here that you might not know about. Celebration was a beautiful introduction to the last poem, and the back that there are so age a little more. I was 14 in my English literature class in high school. Keats's Ode on a Grecian Urn. But I was too young to know what to do with it. Every Saturday, I took the bus and read all of Keats's poems. In one of Keats's last letters, he said, much more rapidly than I. The publisher responded, finish. Keats did finish the ode. He died of tuberculosis at the age of 25. He wrote many homages to poets he loved. To Keats. It's called Ode. Let your sorrows go. Trees forsake their leaves. Waters age. Let loss that induces a new legend. That seed, mature, star without our overtures. Pacing be the rings in museum piece. Imagine bigger than God, desire, crowned. In back of hounds. The end of one man's 5, so many do. Beauty is out of voice and tone near a young marine shore burial makes lovers stutter phrases say alone. Beauty is truth when sung to the beat, leaving home, when aging lovers sing to rock in one another's arms. I don't know. So I'm getting a signal. How are you bearing up? Okay. This is a poem I sometimes bring. It's not this Lenten season. It's called On Rewinding. By wish and will, I fell from his sheep. I have been told that angels bowl heaven. I have been told of cloud grazing mares and I have been told that St. Peter saw a vision. I have been told that truth may be measured in the length of one's nose, and twice I have doubted my countenance. I have been told when beneath the cornered quilt that the Sandman sleeping dust over my last Hail Mary. I have been told that woman is infamy of both. I have been told to accept his rights and wrath. Yet, I have heard over grace and gossip from Bible of breached and blueborn, of original sin, and that was birth. I have heard of atmospheric pressure and tropical cyclones. I have heard that fishermen like their wine and all have visions. I have heard that some men never sleep. I have heard that opposites attract, and gather ye rosebuds while ye may. I have heard that doubt is the stepping stone to knowledge. Man, I have heard too little of too much, and still as green as County Cork, I have but fingered man's 7 selves. This was my first award-winning poem. I was 15 years old, and a poet there named Charles Simic, who gave me a check for $100 and said, "Good job, kid." Poetry could be attached to awards, and I'll never forget the larger award, the notion that my poetry is the human race. So I thank you for your listening and for the connecting that you have just affirmed.
Well, I often refer to these recitals because they come right before lunch. Well, today's was Dom Perignon. We're richly blessed today. I was. I would encourage you to come up and meet. Alarmed if you see some things changing around on the stage. Okay, it's not to rush you out, but we do have another activity, a joyful activity. Take your time and meet the guest. And I also please encourage you, if these to see these continue, there is an offering plate in the back. I'll ask that you give generous. Continue through your gifts. Thank you very much and have a great day.